What up, football fans all over the world? It's your boy, Mac the Giants fan, here with my guy, the super dope co-host, Adam Costas. Y'all know what time it is. It's time for that real deal NFC East round up. Punch that intro. What is going on, everybody? How y'all feeling today? Welcome to another edition of the Real Deal NFC East Round Card, NFC East Round Up Wildcard Edition. What's going on, Adam? How you feeling, bro?
First off, I want to say Happy New Year to everyone out there. Second off, and Happy New Year to you, Mac. Second off, I want to just say, Mac, that intro is fire. Never stop doing that intro. I can recite it word for word, verbatim. It brings the energy. It gets you ready. So I just want to thank the host of the show, obviously, Mac the Giant fan, for that always positive and fun intro to the show. So just want to say that.
Oh, appreciate it, bro. No problem, man. What's going on? No Mets, no Nets, no Jets in the building, too. What's up,
Our
man?
loyal listener. If there was a fan of the year trophy, we'd give it to you. No Mets, no Jets. Like if you are the fan of
absolutely.
The year. All right, you've been here since day one.
Absolutely.
I don't know, no matter what it was, how it do, whatever we were going through, you've been here. So hats off to you. Really appreciate the support. So fan of the year goes to no Mets, no Jets, no Nets.
Absolutely, man. Long time caller, first time listener. We appreciate the support for real. Honestly, we do appreciate the support, man. You definitely show up, pull up, man, hold down the chat, man, everything. And you always, man. It's always much appreciated, greatly appreciated, man. But it's wild card weekend is here. Playoffs are here, man. And we got two NFC East teams still with football games. And we got two that are now on off-season vacation. We're going to talk about those guys first. Let's get the Dallas Cowboys, man.
Called the golf course.
Let's start with those Dallas Cowboys. This is one of the teams we expected to be playing this weekend. And instead, they are sitting at home on their asses with nothing else to do this weekend but watch other teams play football. And let's talk about the Cowboys going. I mean, right now, Michael McCarthy's contract is up as of today, if I'm not mistaken, and they have like a week or something or so to just talk with him and maybe try to renegotiate something and bring him back. And they've denied him the right to speak with the Chicago Bears, a team that was interested in his services apparently and wanted to bring him in for an interview. They denied Chicago Bears that right. That kind of, I guess, because they right now technically have a week's window where they have kind of almost like almost like that franchise tag kind of thing, almost like where they have a week's window where they pretty much can try to negotiate with him first above anybody else. I guess I don't know how that works exactly, but they denied the Chicago Bears the right to speak to Mike McCarthy. Do you think that has anything to do with maybe the fact that they want to just Jerry Jones to bring him back?
That's why I'm questioning it, because if it's technically his contract runs out and there's a memorandum or whatever that period is, like a period of like he's technically a free agent but not a free agent, type of thing. Denying him might mean they want to keep him. Now, if I'm Mike McCarthy, what are you going to give me? I need job security, right? I need some type of not a one-year deal, because you can go to Chicago, restart with a new quarterback, solid defense, really work with a young guy. That's an opportunity. If I'm Mike McCarthy, maybe that's what I want. Maybe I can go there, restart, go back in there, stick it to Green Bay every year. Who knows, right? I don't know where his head's at. Did Mike McCarthy have a good year? He had some injuries, but it to me, Jerry Jones is a very open person. He doesn't do things that aren't calculated. So if he's denying Mike McCarthy to go to Chicago, it might mean that he's trying to bring him back.
I mean, yeah, I just don't see any other reason why you wouldn't. I mean, allow him to at least go talk with the other team if you didn't have a strong interest in wanting to retain him. It just seems like with everything, the way things have been going, things stories circulate throughout the year, rumors fly. It just would have, I don't know. You would have thought maybe that there wasn't that strong of an interest in bringing him back. But I don't know. It's hard. You can't get into the mind of a guy like Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones he does things a different way. So
I
he
think
handles his business.
maybe at the end of this week or whatever that little grace period is over, I think we might be seeing Mike McCarthy say, "Let me go test the waters," because you got to think like this: he was already getting calls for his job this year. Then you realize there's a lot of injuries. Is he on the same level as, like, let's say a Kyle Shanahan, where the guy's been to 2 Super Bowls? I know who he's been. I kind of know he's in the building. This is an unfortunate set of circumstances because of him. Mike McCarthy's job was on the line for many, many weeks. So to me, if you want to keep him, you better. If I'm Mike McCarthy, you're renewing me for 5 years. You can't fire me. I'm going to build something. Blah blah blah. All that. You make sure you get the job security that you want. Because he didn't. Let's be real. He didn't do a horrible job. I think he's been there 5 years, and 3 out of the 5 years he's had winning seasons. For his first year it was bad because Dak went down, but Dak was having the best year of his career that year. The second year he went to the playoffs, lost obviously. The next year they went to the playoffs on a bad year from Dak, and then they went to the playoffs last year, and then of course you had this year where things fell apart again. And part of it, the owner knows he didn't get him a running back. Zeke Elliott, and Dalvin Cook weren't the answer, even though they have Rico Dowd. Let's be real. He's more of probably second complimentary back, power back, change of pace back. They let all their backs go, right? And they didn't bring in the Derrick Henry, who basically changed the entire Baltimore Ravens outlook in offense, right? So who knows if Derrick Henry, who I don't know, I think he signed a 1-year deal with Baltimore. I don't know how many years. Maybe they revisit that. Maybe they go, look, we'll go out, get you Derrick Henry, get you one of the Aaron Jones of the Vikings is out there, right? They need to bring in somebody on the offense. They're going to have to build the offensive line. Like Mike McCarthy, I think is in the driver's seat, to be honest with you, because when's the last time Jerry Jones has ever negotiated with a coach like this?
Yeah, man, I can't think. I definitely, certainly can't think of a time. And the strange part, I mean, this comment I'm gonna acknowledge is with no mess up on screen. I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate to it. I mean, this particular season though, I feel like even in the earlier part of the year before the Dak injury, I mean, the Cowboys were still a very up and down football team. They were still dropping games that they probably shouldn't
Well, the
have,
defense was
and there was
bad.
just something not right. And the defense was bad. The lack of a running game. I mean, Dak Prescott was playing pretty exceptional football for the most part. I mean, his usual, what he
Yes.
does. So to me, it was still something else that was a disconnect there with the team anyway. Even with or without Dak, even if Dak was out there, maybe I don't know. I just don't know how much different this season would have played out. Honestly, just based off of what we saw from the Cowboys, even while he was playing earlier in the year. But
Well, let's look at
it
what their needs are for this year to think that what they really lack. Because you brought up a good point. They had no run game, which was clear hindered their offense in certain games. Right, their defense wasn't what we saw with Dan Quinn, you know, and there was a lot of injuries back there. So, what do you think they're going to do in free agency? I have a couple ideas, but what are some of your ideas that you think that the Cowboys are going to get better? Because I thought about this the other day.
well,
Go ahead.
I think they really. No, I was going to say because the Cowboys, to me, I see a team where you look at these guys and they go down on the field. It looks good. I mean, the starters, other than like I said, offensively, lack of a running game. I mean, their offensive line starters, when their starters are healthy, it's a pretty solid group still. Obviously, we just mentioned Dak Prescott, still to me is a top quarterback in the league based off of what he can get out there and do, and what he's capable of. Wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks. Yeah, the young guy that was emerging this year as well. The other guy, I can't remember his name offhand, but he made some splash plays this season, made a little bit of noise as well. That's not really the issue with the Cowboys. I think the issue with the Cowboys is they really was ruined by their depth. When guys started going down and things started, they just didn't have guys that could step in and like the Eagles and not miss a beat. Like it's just it's just a big fall off from Dak Prescott to Cooper Rush, from and then like Brandon Cooks was out for a good bit of the year. That allows defenses to really just zero in a lot more on CeeDee Lamb and try to slow his production down and things like that. I think so. They need to really a team that needs to really try to build their depth. And I was going to say yesterday, officially, I mean, I think it's no secret to anybody that the young man from Boise State, Genty, announced, made his announcement clear that he's going to declare for the NFL draft. I would think the Cowboys would be very aggressive in going after this young man. Probably in the first round is what it's going to have to take, because I don't think he's lasting much longer than that in the draft. And the Cowboys are probably sitting in the spot where they probably would have a shot to get him. I don't, teams don't necessarily value running backs in the draft process that highly anyway, and I think he'll be the most highly touted running back coming out by far. So I think the Cowboys could probably be very aggressive in trying to attain him come April in the draft. But that's just my thoughts on it, because that's definitely a glaring need for the Cowboys. But really, they need to really work on that depth. I mean, in general, just really build the depth up of the football team. Because when you look at their starters, I mean, offensively and for the most part defensively as well, they have a pretty good, solid group of guys there. It's just once guys get hurt, start going down, it's hard for the Cowboys to overcome. They proved that this season with the injuries that they had to deal with.
Well, I agree with you on the Genty point. If they get a chance, they will be probably in that vicinity to draft him or one of the top running backs. I heard going into this draft is going to be a deep running back class. If you need a running back, this is the class you want to probably dip your toe in the water here. And I think what they'll do is they'll reshuffle the offensive line again, like they always do. I think they'll add another receiver outside of CeeDee Lamb, because even though Brandon Cooks was okay, he's probably better a slot receiver anyways. So, and I'm talking about a veteran receiver. I'm not, even though Tolbert and a lot of these guys still came through, they're going to probably need another weapon on the other side. I think they're going to add another tight end.
That was the name I was looking for too. Thank you.
Tolbert.
That was the name I couldn't remember.
I mean, Devontae Turpin is pretty good, little gadgety player. So you have a little gadget there. He's got some home run speed, so he can take a screen pass or end around or a little dump off, whatever, to house. But the Cowboys are an air it out type. McCarthy likes to air it out. You look at his offenses with Green Bay; they are very diverse. They had 3 receivers, a running back, decent offensive line, and a quarterback in number 4. Wink. And Brett Favre to throw it all over the rock, right? And I think that's what he's similar to what he's doing with Dak Prescott. Aaron Rodgers is a little different because Aaron Rodgers scrambled a little bit more, but Dak is very similar in how he's a gunslinger like Favre was. And so you can see how in those offenses in the late 90s, you had Antonio Freeman, Mark Shimura, you had Robert Brooks, you had Dorsey Levin in the backfield, or Edgar Bennett, and then you had the offensive line, right? So they had weapons all over the field. If you look at what they're doing right now, they have CeeDee Lamb, they have Jake Ferguson, and they don't really have anybody else in that mold that can really do what Mike McCarthy does successfully, right? So for me, if I'm them, I get another tight end to add depth to that team, but I get a running back. And Genty probably is a guy you want, or a guy that's a home run threat. I mean, Pollard had a pretty good year in Tennessee, but again, they moved on from him. I don't know why they didn't use Dalvin Cook this year. That guy must be washed up, but I think they'll go for it big time this year. I think that's if they don't get one in free agency, which I don't, unless it's Derrick Henry on the market. I don't know, who they're going to get. And we can always see there is Aaron Jones, like I said. Aaron Jones is a versatile back. I don't know if he's going to leave Minnesota, but he's a guy that you put him in the backfield with Rico Dowd, and now you got your home run threat, your bell cow, a guy who can do it all. And then you've got your receiver. So it's almost they're almost built very similarly to the '90s Cowboys, but that's how you should do it. That's what Prescott likes to do. On the defensive side of the ball, I don't know really what is their identity. Is it Mike Zimmer's defense that is not working for them? Is it the injuries because there are some games where they look like, wow, this defense could really be good, and then there were other games like this defense can't cover a nosebleed, right? So, I think it's a mixture of many things, but here's what I wanted to point out. Somebody was on the phone with me the other day, and we were talking about, Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. And I'll get to the NFC East point in a minute. But these guys have, like, their quarterback. They've been good. So when they fall off and they get into the top 10, they strike gold. Because if they draft gems later on in the round, imagine what their draft process is when they get into the top 10 of the rounds, right? So what's going to happen is they're going to find their next superstar athlete that they always find. And teams like the Cowboys, this is what they do. They have a down year because they already have a quarterback in place who happens to be injured, right? So it's nothing like it's just an injury. It's not like, oh, he was playing bad. It's just sometimes you're unfortunate. Look at the 49ers. They lost Jimmy Garoppolo, had a bad year this year. They lost a lot. They had a lot of injuries. So they're going to retool that defense. They just brought back Robert Saleh as we speak. So now they're in a position to draft, BPA or a best need player available, right? That's the Cowboys that they're going to do. When you retool in the offense here, you're going to be able to get top defensive players. You're going to be able to dip into the pool of the top 100 players and make your team better. I think they'll go, like I said, for free agency. I wouldn't be surprised if they get a Chris Godwin, spend some money there. I know they just paid CeeDee Lamb, but they're going to need another big-time receiver. And I think if they bring back Mike McCarthy, again, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you that it's good or bad either way because the Cowboys are a two-faced organization. They'll do crap like that, but they'll wait a week so you don't get the best jobs. Maybe somebody else does, and then they'll let you go, right? So to me, I will wait till the ink is dry. But if I'm Mike McCarthy, these are some of the concessions you need to get. I need a new running back. I need this. I need that. I need better defense. Zimmer is a good schemer, but are you bringing him back? Because Lou Amarillo is out there. He's not a great defensive coordinator. He didn't have great personnel with the Bengals, but he might be a guy you want to bring in. There's, you just lost Robert Saleh. So there's going to be guys out there that if he's going to be there, this team's got to retool a little bit. And you could easily see the Cowboys next year. We'll say, the third place team, whatever, right? Next thing you know, they win the NFC East next year because they brought in some crazy superstar athlete like Jesse. And all of a sudden, their offensive line is healthy because they did a few free agency moves, and bingo, bang, they're back. So, while a Cowboy fan be mad at you to make the playoffs, McCarthy hasn't been as terrible as Jason Garrett, but figure that out. But if they do bring him back, I would expect very much high spending in free agency, and I would also expect them to look for a skill position player in the draft. Where they're drafting this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Something about the free agency process with them, I could see them really going out there and throwing a couple of guys to bad because this Cowboys team, let's face it, they're not stumbling into this offseason quite the same way as their counterparts in the New York Giants. This still is, I think, a team that is still, let's face it, I mean, there's a lot of talent on this football team, and I think they're going to go into this offseason process and realize that this year was a bit of a mulligan. They're going to probably treat it as a bit of a mulligan and understand that they're still ready to go out there and compete for a division title and a deep playoff run even just next year, even not coming off of a year like this. And I think they're honestly, speaking honestly, truthfully, they are probably a few pieces away from being able to make that happen, and just having this, and just like you said, simply just staying a little healthier. I think the injury bug, you don't like to really use that as an excuse because, guys get hurt all the time, but the injury bug really bit this team in the ass this year, and they just weren't really able to truly recover from it. What's going on, Joel? Appreciate you stopping in. Go Birds. Yeah, we'll talk about those guys later. Uh, but the Cowboy. So this Cowboy team, man. Like I said, they're to me, they just need a few holes to fill in. They just kind of build that depth up in their running back room. I feel like if you draft a guy like Genty, I would still probably try to bring in a vet if possible too, and just really build that the depth in that running back room up because that truly to me was their biggest Achilles heel on especially on the offensive side of the football. Just the inability to have a balanced attack on that side of the ball in any way, shape, or form. It was all about whatever the quarterback could do. And when Dak was there was when Dak was the quarterback, I mean they were still at least looking a little more competent on the offensive side of the football. Now, however, with the situation now with Cooper Rush finishing off the season the way it just like I said just wasn't the same, and it made that situation even a little tougher for him to navigate. Joel has as Dak the future quarterback. I mean, right now
Yeah,
he's the quarterback, and I honestly don't know inside the mind of Jerry Jones what they're thinking. But has Dak's play warranted them moving on? I don't think so. I don't think Dak Prescott's play on the field has warranted them moving on from him. I still do, and I'd still say I'd like to see him go out there and win a big one, a game that truly matters, like a postseason game when they had those opportunities. How I want to see him get over that hump, but and start and make and get some more meaningful wins like in the postseason when they're there. But I still think Dak's play on the field is there's no reason to get to move on from that guy. I think he still has some years left, obviously. And a healthy Dak Prescott is a very productive quarterback in the NFL. So I don't see why right now they would even be thinking about that, to be honest, other than the financial situation. But I don't know if you had anything on that, Adam.
they paid him. They paid Dak Prescott recently, him and CD Lamb. So he's not going anywhere. And like you said, has he really lost? Did he? When you look at Dak Prescott this year, where you're like, oh man, he was having a bad year. No, he bled his hamstring, something that I've never really seen before. But he blew it out. He was having a solid year. He's the only reason the Cowboys have were in some of those games. Now you could say Cooper Rush played well, but I think they're a little bit more dynamic offense when he's in the game. Cooper Rush is very methodical, and you got to give credit where credit is due to McCarthy in keeping that kid afloat. But Dak Prescott's a top 10 quarterback in the league, man. He puts up 4,500 yards like it's nothing. Okay, now where you might have a problem with him is in the playoffs. But I mean, the guy. I'm sorry, you paid him money. You paid him a lot of money for the results that you've gotten with Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's been a winner for the Cowboys for years. And here's what we talk about again, where is a guy a winner because he gets the playoffs? The playoffs aren't guaranteed every year, right? So when you get them, you got to make the most of them. But in the same vein, you also have to look at what happened. Did he play well enough to win some of these games? Yeah, but did the defense against Green Bay last year completely look lost as if Dan Quinn didn't care because he wasn't coming back? Yeah, that's what it looked like. Had they made some stops on Green Bay, maybe their quarterback can get out of the 2 interception funk and work his way back in the game as he did. But at that point, it was too late for the Cowboys because they couldn't stop anything. So, in a couple years before that, they lost to a 49er team that was pretty good, right? That went on to represent in the Super Bowl, I do believe, right? So, or at least they were until they went to the Eagle game. Not the Eagle game, but so. Anyways, yeah, that's all I got on Dak Prescott.
I mean, if you want me to answer this question, I mean, candidly, I think that Dak Prescott's a better pure
Yes.
quarterback than Jalen Hurts. I think he is. I mean, Jalen Hurts is good. I'm not gonna. He's not a scrub by no means. I'm not even remotely saying that. But I just think when it comes to pure quarterback play, I think Dak Prescott is a better pure quarterback. I think Jalen Hurts is slightly a product of his environment, being in a great situation for a guy like him, and he's made the most of it. And I won't knock him for that. But I just think when it comes down to pure quarterback play and arm talent and all of that stuff, granted, obviously we know Jalen Hurts is gonna outdo Dak with the legs, but pure quarterback play, like just like a pop being in the pocket and everything else, and reading the defenses and everything you need your quarterbacks to do, I think Dak Prescott's a little better at the position. Just my opinion. I mean, not that, like I said, Jalen Hurts is still. I mean, he's good. He's definitely a top quarterback as well in the league. I mean, you're not going to knock that. I just think, you asked a question, and I just think I just feel like Dak's a little better. What is pure quarterback play? I mean, I thought I just kind of said it. I mean, just what a quarterback is. I mean, yes, well, I know we're used to this new age hybrid kind of guys now that move around, but you know what I mean. When I'm speaking of quarterback, I'm talking about just all the things. But oh, okay, you acknowledge that I answered it, but yeah. Appreciate you stopping in though, Joe. No doubt. If you are new to the channel, man, please hit that thumbs up and make sure you and make sure you subscribe, bro. I really appreciate it. But as far as the Cowboys, they just really I think they just need to address the depth, and I think that's the main thing they need to work on this team is filling in the depth and making sure when the injuries occur that they've got guys that can step in and still have to have at least somewhat of equal impact and pretty much not lose a beat. But I don't know if you got anything else on the Cowboys or you want to go to these other guys.
We can move on to the other
teams
guys
in the NFL and the NFC.
I think we talked.
Let's move on.
Enough about the Cowboys.
We did. We definitely did. Let's move on a little bit. Let's move on to these guys right here. Mr. Smiley Face, Mr. Smiling Man, Brian Daboll, New York Football Giants. Brian Daboll, Joe Schoen announced earlier this week that John Mara announced earlier this week in his presser that he will be retaining the Clown Show and Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. Adam, man, the New York Giants have so many questions, so many holes. Number 3, picking number 3 in the draft come April, man. What do you think about the New York Giants going into the offseason, man?
Hey, well, it's the only job where you can be bad and still retain your job. I mean, these guys have been bad for, I don't know, all season. They win one game against the Colts, and they can't even beat the backups of the Eagles, and they retain their job. Listen to this stat. They won one game in the conference. The NFC conference itself, right? They won one game. That was against Seattle. And then they beat 2 AFC teams. And then they won no games in the division. None. But yet you still get to keep your jobs? Like, what? This team was one of the worst in Giant history. Not the NFL, Giant history. John Mara was talking about 100-year anniversary. They broke a lot of 100-year losing records this year. Things that stood for 40 years, they broke. Things that they didn't have for 50 years.
They almost broke every bad record possible.
Like, literally. And we're talking about teams in the 60s and 70s that the NFL wasn't as prominent or dominant as it is today with the terms of free agency and the money. And here we are at that low. And you know what John Mara says? Bring him back. It's okay with me. That's all right. But we don't want to blame. There's no accountability in it.
Here's the thing. I appreciate it too, by the way, Joe. John Mara, if you listen to that press conference on Monday, he was just the way that he was making excuses up for these fuckers, man. Like I think that was the part that bothered me was the excuses he was making up. He had at one point during that presser, they had the audacity to throw the defense completely under the bus as if this offense was any bit of good. Like as if this defense at one point in this season wasn't playing their asses off for this football team and doing what they could do to try to lead this team to wins. And the offense just refused to score points ever in any damn game. He sat up there and had the audacity at this press conference to throw the defense under the bus and just make excuse after excuse after excuse for Brian Daboll and Joe Shane. That is the part that tells me the incompetence of the ownership with New York Giants. Because like you said, when you first started your rant, Adam, it's the only job in the world, apparently in America, that you can be bad as shit at your job and they're gonna still keep you around. Is being the coach and the GM for the New York Giants. This team went from a 9-7 season year one under Daboll and Shane to a 6-11 season, now down to a 3-14 season, the worst season in franchise history, and was right on the verge of having their first number one overall pick in the modern era. And yet, it's okay. We're going to bring you guys back because we're expecting different results with the same clown show. This is the part that bothers me about the New York Giants and John Mara. And I think it would be imperative for John Mara to get some real football guys in there to consult with him to help him make some of these decisions and come to maybe better decision and have some better decision making. Because right now it's just been bad. Like I said, I was angry listening to him talk on Monday, and then the fact that you just don't see the errors of their way. It's just I don't get it.
I'm angry at all of them. Okay, I'm angry at Joe Shane because of his stupid press conference. I'm angry at John Mara because and this is why I don't think I had a theory where I don't think they get fired, and this is next year either. I think they do a Mike McCarthy type thing where if they go 6-10. They'll probably either let him walk because they'll have a young quarterback, or they'll have to be fired because they have a franchise guy like a Darnold. But let's dive into this, okay? The reason why I'm mad at John is because I think he believed in Brian Daboll. Daboll sold him a bill of goods in his exit interview, because if he came away saying that it's the defense and my offense isn't the problem. Because what he said. He said, look what I did with Daniel in Seattle. Look what I did with this and this. If they stop him here, they stop him there, we get the ball back. Look what I did with the Cowboys. We were in these games. Like, that's probably what he sold him, and he blamed the defense for not making the crucial stop when needed, because that's the only explanation I can give you. Now, I didn't like Bowen's defense. I thought it was a bad defense, but to blame him solely of the problems and not the coach who was brought in to fix your offense, okay, to fix your offense. I mean, the whole point about bringing Brian Daboll is he's the working quarterbacks, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, great. So he gets a reprieve, and then on top of that, now you insinuate that he needs to stop calling plays and be a hit. Like, what is it? And then at the end of your rant, John Mara, you go, well, if I'm standing in this position again, you can blame it on me. Well, guess what? Have you seen the schedule? You're probably going to be standing in the same position again, okay? You probably are. And here's why for the Giants in the offseason, they're going to draft a quarterback, and they're going to draft one in the first 2 rounds, because that is what they do. They're going to have to do it to save their jobs. That's the only real recognition that they can save their jobs, because if they don't do that and they bring in a Sam Darnold or some quarterback that you deem worthy, right? And I've checked free agency. There's not one that you really want out there, okay? People keep putting Aaron Rodgers memes up there. I don't want Aaron Rodgers, okay? They might try to bring him in, but why would Aaron Rodgers come to this shithole when he can go out to maybe San Francisco or, another team like that out there where they can go? I mean, Brock Purdy, maybe the Giants are going to spend money somewhere. How they do it, I don't want to see them bring an old veteran in. And they're not going to have money for Sam Darnold. You might be able to pry a Brock Purdy off the 49ers if you want, if the 49ers deem that he's not worthy enough. But if you're going to bring in a quarterback like that, I need somebody to have like a Justin Fields. Like, all right, you're a quarterback whisperer, bring that guy in. You fix him, guess what? You got yourself your quarterback. And then I don't need to rely about it in the draft. Now, do I want Justin Fields and only that? No, I think you still should draft a quarterback nonetheless. But if you're going to not draft one or not invest, at least invest in a young guy that if you strike gold like the Vikings did and you work out and he can be a legitimate franchise guy or at least work in that system for you, then you pay him and you can pay him well. I don't want no bridge and a guy later. I believe they're going to bring in a young quarterback here, either one. And there's going to be services for Justin Fields. There's going to be services for other guys. But that's the only guy you really got. Outside, everybody else is like, what, Carson Wentz? I don't really want that guy, but I could see the Giants pining for him. Get me, if you really want to.
I wouldn't be mad at that totally, completely. So I did a veteran guy that has had some success in the league at some point in his career, like has had legitimate success. Carson Wentz was a guy that was once nearly a league MVP. The year they tore his knee all up at Super Bowl year for the Eagles. So, I get what you're saying with that, but it would still bring a little more credibility to the quarterback room than what they've had. It just would. Have somebody that at least you could have him bounce things off of that has that, whether he doesn't play at that level anymore, obviously, but he's had some success in this league, over the course of a few seasons at one point in his career. Some legitimate success that could bring maybe something to at least the quarterback room, not necessarily much to the field anymore, but I was when it comes to the go ahead.
You got guys like Jameis Winston, you got Marcus Mariota, you got guys out there who can it depends on if you want to get a rookie quarterback in here, right? If you get Justin Fields, I still think you draft a quarterback in the first or second round to compete because you don't know if that guy, you're not paying Justin Fields a long-term contract. You're giving him maybe $8 or $9 million guaranteed. If he works out, great. If he doesn't, he's on to the next team, right? And you have your guy back there. Justin Fields doesn't stop you. Jameis Winston, again, these guys don't stop you from drafting a quarterback. You're right. What you want is you want a professional in there. That's what you want, a professional, right?
That's what I was getting at. Yeah, something like that. How about an idea like this? Because I think the Giants definitely. To me, it's a no-brainer that at least, however you get them, acquire them. I think 2 quarterbacks need to come in to this team at the very least on this all-season process. Whether you draft 2. Or whether you acquire a veteran in free agency, and you still, like you said, you still absolutely cannot. It doesn't almost matter who you acquire via free agency. Like you said, that cannot stop you from still drafting a young guy as well. But I'm also wouldn't be opposed if they did, for instance, like the Patriots did last year, like Washington did some years ago. Draft 2 quarterbacks. If you get one, say you can still get one of the guys. Say you can still get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders or whatever with the 3rd pick overall in the draft. I still think maybe later on in the draft, 4th or 5th round, 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever. You know what I mean? Maybe get another guy too, just to kind of cover your bases. How do you feel about potentially doing something like that?
I think you're absolutely right. You do that. I think no matter what is happening to me, whether you bring in a veteran, you're drafting a guy here. And you're going to use a relatively high pick, first, second, at the bare minimum, a 3rd round pick on him. Right? If you get to I believe Jalen Milroe is going to move up the board, but let's just use him for argument's sake. He comes in at the 2nd round, then you get Justin Fields in here. You draft Jalen Milroe, and then maybe you bring in a veteran to help out, like a Carson Wentz or a Marcus Mariota, right? And then you have three guys in the room, right? So I think that you mentioned one team. You mentioned the Commanders, right? They brought in 3 quarterbacks, right? They brought in 3 quarterbacks. They drafted 2. Sam Hartman, remember they drafted him in the 6th round. They got Jaden Daniels, and then they brought in Marcus Mariota. Right, and then the Patriots you mentioned, they brought in 3 quarterbacks as well. They brought in Jacoby Brissett, the guy you're kind of talking about, alluding to. Then they got Drake May at 3, and then they got Joe Milton in the 6th round. So I think the Giants, they are going to do something along the line. Everyone keeps saying, what the Vikings did, where they draft a quarterback or something like that. I think they're going to do something along those lines where they're going to draft a guy. And then, like, to me, the thing is this: if you get a quarterback in here, then you can take a chance on a Milroe, right? If you get a guy in here, because then you don't need to worry about Milroe starting right away. You could draft that guy at 3 if you want. Say, we love his ability to run. We think that he can fit our system well. We can work on things with him, and then you have quarterbacks that are very similar in Fields, in Mariota, and guys like that, where they can help learn and bounce off each other. To me, I think the Giants, it sucks that they didn't pick a quarterback last year, but I don't want to hear about kicking the can down the road next year, because we do that too god dang much. Okay, we really do. We're like, oh, well, next year this guy will come out and then we'll get here. And then the Giants win 6 games at a happenstance because they don't like to tank, right? What makes you think they're going to tank next year if they can't even tank this year? They can't even tank this year, right? And you want me to believe they're going to go do it again next year? Like, oh, well, these guys know they're getting fired and they're going to just lay down and die. Like, come on. You saw what he did in the Colts game. You don't think he's going to do it again? And be like, oh, fuck you. You're not getting the first round pick. Like, that's exactly what the Giants do. And John Mara's mantra is not to tank. So for me, go get my quarterback. And everyone's like, well, if you get a quarterback and you fire these guys and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Look what Justin Herbert had. He's had multiple coaches. If the guy is good, it's not going to matter. About the coach understanding who he is and what he's got and building around that. And I just think the Giants have to – they're probably going to bring in – I wouldn't be surprised they bring in 3 quarterbacks. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they already have Tommy DeVito, who I am not letting Tommy DeVito stop me from getting anybody in the draft, even if it's like I draft a 6th-round quarterback and I bring in, let's say, like a Mariota, a Milroe, and like we drafted Brady Cook in the 6th round, and then I have Tommy DeVito. Like, get rid of that guy. He stinks. He's only here as a placeholder because he ain't got no other quarterback. And he's not even signed yet. The Giants haven't signed any quarterbacks. And looking at their history, I wouldn't be surprised if they sign 3, if not 4, if they bring in another. Because remember, at the beginning of camp, they had 4 quarterbacks in here. They had a guy named Nathan Rourke, who, by the way, his brother Curtis Rourke plays for Indiana, a guy that might be brought in. And then you had Tommy DeVito, you had Jones, and you had Drew Lock. Right, they had 4 guys at one point, and Jones was practicing. It wasn't like Jones was on the bench, so they had 4 guys in here. I expect them to bring in a ton of guys, look under every rock. I do not want them to waste capital on an older veteran. If you're going to use that capital, use it in the draft. And the last thing I want to say about the draft, okay, because this is the thing I hate about people most. We're worried about draft assets. We're going to have the first pick of the draft. We can't do that. We can't. How is Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal worked out? Okay, I say that because if you want to save assets, but then all of a sudden I go look at the assets that we got in the 5th overall pick, and he's not doing nothing. So I'm not going to go get a quarterback to hope that I get a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau to hope for him to do nothing. Are we insane right now? Like, you take the capital that you got and you go get that goddamn quarterback, and that's it. And if you happen to hit on him, you're not going to worry that you gave up a 1st or 2 first-round picks. You're going to be like, dang, man, we're about to go get some Lombardis. Buckle up. We're about to get back in the playoffs. Buckle up, and be in a long run. No, that's what I'm talking about. I don't want to hear that. Because if I have to hear about, oh, we're going to give up a pick and we're going to be our 1st-round pick, well, look at Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau. How are they working out? Evan Neal may not even be on the team next year, and Kayvon Thibodeau hasn't lived up to the 5th overall pick. And those guys were picked in the top 10. So you want me to save an asset so I can bust out with those 2 guys? Give me a break. Just go get your quarterback. And if shit happens and you fail, you go get another one in 2027.
I mean, be nice. Be nice, no mess, no net. Be nice, bro. Be nice. But here's the thing, man. I think quarterback is the key, and people keep trying to downplay it, and they keep trying to. But quarterback is the key, man. Like, it has to start there. And if you're not talking about cementing that position, then I don't know what else we're talking about here, man. Like, at the end of the day, even go back up to this one comment, no Mets, no Nets question, slight question comment. Said you bring in Fields, what do we do with the 3rd pick? Well, if Shador Sanders or Cam Ward is still sitting there at the 3rd pick, I'm still grabbing one of them, whether we brought Justin Fields in or not already. I'll tell you that right now.
Exactly.
That's happening anyway. regardless.
Because you got to think like
Regardless,
this.
you know what I mean? That's not going to make me waver.
Justin Fields hasn't shown me that he's going to turn it around, right? So I'm bringing in Justin Fields because I need a starting caliber quarterback in the league. And if he's still kind of on the what we say with Daniel Jones, he's still young enough. He's still young enough to kind of maybe break out of some habits, and that works twofold for you. One, if he hits, good for you. Now you're in the playoffs or whatever. But if he asks for an astronomical amount of money, I already have my guy in the back, right? I don't need you anymore. Or if you don't believe in Shador, now you can keep Fields. Like there's so many positives to do it, but the one negative to do it is if you bring in Justin Fields, then you bring in nobody, or you bring in Justin Fields and you bring in Brady Cook, and then we're back to the same thing. Then what happens next year in 2026 draft when everyone talks themselves out of the top quarterback because the kid from Tennessee had a down year, or the kid from whatever college has a down year because half their team leaves, right? Same thing happened to Carson Beck. Same thing that happened to Carson Beck happened to Sam Howell. He was going in, leading in the nation, going to be a top pick, blah, blah, blah. Then all his team leaves, all his receiving core leaves. He hits a down year, and now he's going to be picked in the 5th round, right, or 4th round. And now the injury probably even lower than that. But these guys go in as consensus top picks. So next year, there's a guy in the college football playoffs we're probably going to talk about tomorrow named Drew Aller. If Drew Aller goes on a heater and ends up winning the Natty, it would behoove him to come out now than to wait till next year. What do you need to accomplish? You've done the national title. You will be a top 10 pick guaranteed, top 5 pick probably guaranteed, and you don't need to worry about it. Instead, what happens if you go back next year and all your guys are plucked off that Penn State team and you don't have the same team and your numbers dip? Now your value goes down. Now you're transferring schools, which is, it's a win-win for them. But if you're going to be a top 10 pick now, strike while the iron's hot. So many things are going to go into this offseason. They need to come away with a quarterback at the end of the day. I think, and if the quarterback stinks this year, guess what? Maybe you'll be in position to take another one next year. And then that's what you do. You can't be afraid to redraft the position. That's what I hate what people do, is they go, oh, man, we can't do it. If this guy shows promise, let's say you bring in a Shador or Milrow or a Ward, who I happen to like a lot, and they play and you have a lost season, you put him in the back half of the season saying, you know what, let's see if we got the last 8 weeks, as you should, a rookie quarterback drafted that high if you're not making the playoffs, as you should get some games under his belt to see what you got. Look at what Atlanta did. Atlanta, they had Michael Penix. They took a chance. If he had stunk, you could draft another quarterback next year. You'll still have Penix, and you're at the rookie deal where you're not hurting yourself financially to draft another quarterback. See, years ago, Sam Bradford. I don't know if you guys remember Sam Bradford, but he was the last guy that got paid for doing nothing. Okay, he came in 2010 before that bargaining agreement. He got paid mad money. And the Rams were stuck with him for 5 years regardless and had to pay him through all his injuries. And then they had the collective bargaining agreement where they're like, we have a rookie wage scale. And that wage scale allows you to be like, you know what, this quarterback stinks, punt, go on to the next one. So there you go. I know there's a fight going on in the chat between No Mets and Joel, but that's what the friendly banter of the NFC East brings to you. No Mets is still there. We don't want Kenny Pickett. Get out of here. Tibbs for Pickett?
Yeah, we definitely don't. And I had completely given up on Thibodeau to that extent. not to that extent. I'm not happy with what I've seen so far. But
imagine he goes to the Eagles, right? Goes to the Eagles, we get freaking Kenny Stinkins, right? He goes off and becomes an all-pro defensive outside linebacker for the Eagles. We'll never live that fuck down, right? We'll just go, we traded for Kenny Pickett. The guy said he was the most important position on the field, and you traded for him, and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, man. Like, give me at least, I would rather give me Tanner McKee, because at least that guy's better than Kenny Pickett. Like, if I'm going to get back the better of the two bad. Tibbs for McKee. Let's do it right now.
I'm good with that right now. I'm gonna respectfully pass on that offer. But the Giants, this is a team going to the offseason full of holes, man. So many holes on this team. It's hard to even try to dissect them all right now. But we'll have plenty of off season time in the off season to really dig into the New York Giants and discuss
Probably next week.
there are many needs. There are many needs. Yeah, we'll do a little more next week, but we're just. I think it's about time we get ready to move on from the New York Giants as well, man.
Well, talk about your birds
let's talk
right
about
now.
some teams that
Jesus,
actually
Joel. My God.
that are actually still playing. How about let's talk about some teams that are actually still playing, and two teams in the NFC East indeed do have football games this weekend on Sunday. The Philadelphia Eagles will be hosting the who the hell they playing? Oh, the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, I'm sorry, the Green Bay Packers Week 1 rematch from the great game down in Brazil in Week 1.
We called it.
This time, this game will be at the link, so we shouldn't be hearing any complaints about the field or anything like that.
You can wear green.
This go around. And you'll be able to wear all your green, as much green as you want to this one, man. But Eagles Green Bay wild card round. This is a great matchup. I think personally, it's not the most ideal matchup for the Eagles in round one. I would, but how do you see this one potentially playing out, man? I think it'll be a great game Sunday afternoon, though.
Actually, I think this is the best matchup for them. Personally, I think they've had some success against Green Bay. They played them. They're totally a different team than they were in Week 1. But both teams were. But you got a quarterback in Jordan Love who's coming in a little banged up. The knee injury hasn't. They lost Christian Watkins in the last game of the year. So you got a wounded animal coming in with the Green Bay Packers. They're probably going to lean heavily on Jacobs, but people forget how good the good rankings of the Eagles defense are. Like they're number one in a lot of the categories, runs overall defense. So and that was on display last week against the Giants backups. They still were able to, kind of navigate. The Giants didn't help themselves, but again, the Eagles were able to. Their backups were able to shut down the offense. So I think it's going to be a good game. I really do. I think the one thing that was concerning me, I was talking to Eagle fan a couple hours ago, is exactly. Is Jalen Hurts going to be rusty? That's my only thing, because if Jalen Hurts throws a couple turnovers, like he did in the game against Green Bay early on, and they don't get off to the start they need, what will happen? But I think Kellen Moore is going to be a difference maker. And why I mean that is I don't think he's going to put Hurts to the harm's way. You got 26 back there for a reason. He ran for 2,000 all-purpose yards and 2,000 rushing yards, but obviously scrimmage yards, he had a ton of those too. Put the ball in that guy's hands. All right, the Packers aren't the greatest run-stuffing team in the world. Your offensive line can take advantage of their defensive line. The Eagles should just give a heavy dose to Barkley. Short passes with Jalen Hurts. Let him get eased in the game and let him, get knock the rust off, so to speak. Because, again, we talk about this all the time. When you have a good team, not everybody can contribute to the win. They have to contribute in other ways, right? So if you don't use the passing game this week because you're relying heavily on Barkley as you ease in Jalen Hurts, then, hey, there may be situations where you're going to need to use him. But my point is, if you can win the game without having to rely on him, Jalen Hurts might help you in the NFC Championship game when you get there, when you might actually have to throw because they're going to stop your run game. So if I'm the Eagles, the only thing that worries me is just Jalen Hurts and getting his sea legs. Remember, he hasn't played football for about 3 weeks at least. So if he can do that, we can see.
I mean, I hear you there, and the rush part with Jalen Hurts. I'm not sure if I'm worried too much about that concern, because I feel like if this Giants game, had any meaning to it, he probably would have been good. I think he would have been good to go out there and play in that football game as well. So I mean, I'm sure he's been, working himself up. At this point in the year, he knows what it takes to be prepared for a football game. But my thing with this matchup with the Eagles and Green Bay is, even though, like you said, they are both two very different teams than they were Week 1 way back in the beginning of the year. But I think a lot of us watching that game, even though with the Herculean effort of Saquon Barkley in that football game, if it hadn't have been for the late injury in that game to Jordan Love, the Green Bay Packers may have been able to take care of the Philadelphia Eagles Week 1. And part of what I was saying about the matchup for the Eagles to me ideally is because this is a team, Green Bay, that that you're right. They're not necessarily the greatest run stuffing team. They're not going to necessarily shut the team's run game down so much. They haven't really proven to be all about that life. But they are opportunistic in the secondary. Well, I mean, with Xavier McKinney had a huge year for them, a great free to pick up. By way of the New York Giants, by the way, another guy that Joe Shane didn't want to entertain
Great job, Joe
paying.
Shane.
But that's another whole story, another story of a different day. But I also think because Green Bay has they have an ability to score points in bunches as well offensively, so they can put the points up on the board in bunches, when necessary. They can put some drives together. Jordan Love will make the big throws down the field, and I know coming in this one, Christian Watson is a no factor now with the injury he sustained a week ago, but. I just think this is the type of team that's going to come in and have the ability to go blow for blow with the Philadelphia Eagles, and it could come down to who has that ball in their hand last, Jordan Love or Jalen Hurts, man. And I think I agree. One thing I definitely agree with you. What you said for sure is if the Eagles are smart, and they've proven to be a fairly smart team the way they go about their business, they would feed number 26 early and feed him often, and really just really rely on him to carry them across that finish line. This is what they brought Saquon Barkley in for, is for this moment, for in the postseason, and they need to let him be their guy. Even though all the great immense amount of talent they have around them, they need to allow Saquon Barkley to be that guy and carry that load. And I think if they do that, they could have some serious success on Sunday. But I think this is going to be a great wild card game, man. I think these two teams are going to put on a show, man, and it's going to be an entertaining game to watch, man.
Well, we'll see. I mean, Jordan Love's a bit banged up, and the Packers have had some ups and downs late in the season. So if they come in and they're flawless, yeah, I believe there's a chance. But I also believe this is where you see the Eagles defense kind of rise up a bit and play a little bit better defense. I don't think they're going to put Jordan Love. If I'm Vic Fangio, you saw that Jordan Love's kind of banged up and cumbersome with that leg injury, right? He also got knocked out of the game, and they had Malik Willis come into the game, right? So Jordan Love's been banged up pretty much all year. If I'm Vic Fangio, I'm blitzing the crap out of him and making him feel it, making him feel the rush, because if he's really not healthy, because I'm old school. So if people want to play and they have injuries, well, then I'm going to say, well, let's see how much that injury really works, right? Like let's see how much he can move around. I'm bringing the house. And if he beats me, okay, fine. He beats me. But if he doesn't, and I have an advantage, I'm just going to keep putting him under siege. And that's what I think the Eagles are going to do. They're going to get him in 3rd and long. They're going to blitz him, with no viable threat on the offense with Christian Watkins gone. I think they can employ their DBs, who are pretty good, to cover these guys. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think this is a better matchup for the Eagles. I would not have wanted to play the Commanders if I were the Eagles, just because of familiarity, things like that. Save that for a later date. I
agree with that.
But Green Bay, to me, coming off their, like I said, you watched them. Jordan Love didn't play the last game. He got injured, right? He hurt his thumb or something like that. And then Malik Willis went in the game, and he got hit, and he was knocked out for a few. So they're coming in banged up. And again, Jordan Love hasn't been the same since he got the knee injury. He's put up some numbers, but he hasn't been that Jordan Love that carved him up at the beginning of the year. And I think that's what you're going to need to do defensively to kind of test him out. And it's not bad if he's playing. You're not trying to be dirty. You're just trying to say, hey, man, how well is that knee? Is he going to outrun us? Let's go find out. Let's go find out.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree. And one thing I also agree with is, like, this Philadelphia Eagle defense in particular is definitely a better unit than it was week 1. I mean, it's definitely vastly better than it was week 1. And I can say that, but Another thing on the Green Bay side, we've been talking about Jordan Love a lot. Well, another big free agency pickup they had in this past offseason was Josh Jacobs, and running back. Josh Jacobs came in and started off, it was a little, slow in the beginning of the year, but it's picked up as of late. His production has definitely increased as the season's gone on. You know what I mean? And it's he's becoming more. He's been big road grader for the Packers, getting in the end zone. Just kind of been he's been a terror in the red zone as of late for the Packers. And I just think he's also the guy that could be primed to have a big impact on the outcome of this football game as well. If the Eagles aren't necessarily on their P's and Q's defensively, which they look like a team that probably will be. Let's face it. The Eagles, I mean, I can't really say a lot of bad things about this team, even though I really wish I could and want to. I just can't. And by the way, I want to say what up to my guy Alex in the chat. Appreciate you stopping in, my dude, man. Most definitely appreciate you. But yeah, I can't. I just can't. I don't know. I just think, like I said, I think this game has a lot of. It's gonna be fun. I can't wait for Sunday. I think Sunday's lineup of games are gonna be it's gonna be interesting, man. I can't wait to sit back and just be able to watch them without having to worry about watching the stink of the New York Giants during the course of the day. I can just watch some good football all day long, good playoff games that mean something, and it's gonna be I think this is going to be a great one. Honestly, I really do. I love this matchup, but I don't know. I can see it going either way. I truly can see this one going either way. I don't necessarily think it's that much head and above like that no brainer. The Eagles win this game. I think it could literally go either way. As we saw the Packers, like we saw a year ago. Now, granted, they're not as quite as healthy, but they can turn it on come playoff times. I mean, you saw what they did in their opportunity last season ago in the postseason. I think they can kind of recreate some of that same energy and possibly go on the road and potentially steal one. But I'm not sure if I'm going that way yet. But Adam, which way you leaning with this one, man?
I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Gonna go with the Eagles.
Yeah,
I'm going to take the upset, man. Here, I'm taking the upset. I'm taking the Packers.
Wow.
I'm taking the Packers for a couple of reasons.
You're disdain for the Eagles.
It is. It's a high. It's a high disdain. But just because I think this is a game that could go either way. Now, do I know the Eagles technically are the better team a bit on paper? Sure, I know that. I'm not crazy, but I just think the way the Packers play and some of the things that they are good at doing could be things that can help keep them in this football game and potentially help them steal one from the Philadelphia Eagles, man. In the wild card round, and just for my own sanity, I need the Eagles season to end as soon as possible. I need that for my own personal sanity. I can't do it. I'm not going to be able to take the more the Eagles advance further. Eagles advance in the postseason. It's going to get ridiculous in my world. I can't. That's not a world I want to live in for the next few weeks. It's just not. I'm sorry. So let's go ahead and take care of business this week, Pack, and get them out of there. And I ain't got to worry about that no more. But that's really all. I mean, that's all. I mean, it's all. I understand how good the Eagles are, but like I said, it's just for me personally.
Listen, folks. I wouldn't be surprised when we preview the next game that he picks the other team from the NFC East to advance in the next round. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just saying. We have to get to that part. We're about to get there. We'll find out right now.
But yeah, I mean, look, like I said, this should be a dandy on Sunday, man. The Eagles coming back full. I mean, also we didn't talk about Dallas Goedert, who did play a little bit in the game on Sunday, just getting his feet wet again because he had been out for the last about almost a month of the season or so. So I mean, they've got their full. They're back. They got their full. They do have their full unit, man, offensive, and it's just definitely a hard unit to deal with, that Eagles offense, man. I mean, all across the board, from their offensive line to their backfield to their wide receivers, and they got their starting tight end back in the lineup as well. So, yeah, I'm gonna still go with the Pack though, just because that's what I hope happens. So I'm gonna go with hope on this pick here, and and hope. Thanks, Joel. Thanks for hanging out with us, man. Appreciate you stopping in, man. No doubt, indeed. We do this every Wednesday, man. So come on and hang out, man. Anytime you're welcome. Every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. But let's get to this. Let's get to the other squad, man. It has a game Sunday night football, man. The Washington Commanders going on the road to somewhere they've been before too. In week one as well. Tampa going down to Tampa Bay, take on the Buccaneers week one, man. And this game also, once again, the tale of two teams that are completely different than they were in week one of this regular season, man. And how do you feel about this one, Adam? What you think about this matchup, Sunday night football down in Tampa?
I think it's going to be a barn burner. Funny how we get matchups from week one. If you look at the Eagles Packer game we spoke about a few minutes ago, we thought that would be a preview maybe of the NFC Championship game, right, or a playoff game, but nonetheless, right? Well, Commanders Tampa Bay, we didn't think that was going to be a playoff game. When we sat here after week one, after the Commanders got beat, headed down Giant Alley, after the Giants got railroaded by Minnesota, another team we didn't expect to be where they are, we were like, we'll beat them. They scored. The Buccaneers look good. They went to the playoffs last year. We expected the Bucs to make the playoffs. We did not expect the Commanders to be there. So now those two teams are on different spectrums right now, I believe. While I do believe Tampa Bay is going to put up points, I do think the Commanders have a real chance to win this game. I do. And here are some reasons why. I think they're a better team than they were when they first came and met Tampa Bay. Story time with Adam. I think they were young. They were trying to find their sea legs. Their defense is very better than it was then. And I just think they believe that they can win these close games. And the Buccaneers defense, let's really talk about that. It hasn't been great. They've had their moments, but they've also had moments where they haven't been good. If Tampa Bay were going to Philadelphia, I think they might, or vice versa, I think they might have a shot because they played that team well. I as much as I want to pick Tampa Bay to win because I like Baker Mayfield, and then it will be fun to see them win. I don't want it for the show. I'd rather see the Commanders win for the show. Show purposes, I want to see them win, but Tampa Bay purposes, I could see them win, but I have to go with my gut. My gut is leaning towards Commanders because I think they're going to look at that film that they saw and they're going to say, listen, we got to do two things with the Buccaneers right now. We've got to stop the run and we've got to score points. And the Commanders have done that. And they've played some gritty games down the stretch where their defense come alive. I think they're going to come alive offensively in this game. I do. And I think they're going to make Tampa Bay's life miserable. If I'm Tampa Bay, I did not want to draw this card. I know that, we talk about the Commanders and all this stuff. This is the card I did not want to draw. I don't care. I know Minnesota, whatever it was, is a draw, but I'd rather have had Green Bay because the Green Bay, like I said to you, is coming in limping. They offensively, you might be able to jump on them because of that. But with this team, with Jaden Daniels and the way he's playing and how they're looking offensively and what they've done to turn around the defense, Tampa Bay might be in trouble. They're getting some guys back, Vita Vea, a few other guys on defense. But the Bucs offense hasn't been as spectacular as it's been all year, right? They put up points, but it hasn't been as spectacular as it's been. And I think this game it's huge for Tampa Bay because remember that they went to the divisional round again and lost to the Lions, which is no slouch. I think that this is a game that is going to be close. And I just think the team that's hot right now, Commanders, is going to win.
Great stuff, man. Great points there. Here's the thing with this. Week one, way back in week one, there was a young man on the Washington Commanders who was playing his very first NFL football game. And he has come such a long way from there. I mean, he didn't perform poorly in that game either, but what he's done since that game just leaves me as a football fan speechless. I've never seen a rookie quarterback come in quite like this young man and have the poise that he does as a rookie. When you watch Jaden Daniels play, he doesn't look like you don't look like you're watching a rookie quarterback out there performing. You're watching a leader of men on that field. He has the full respect of that entire team already as a rookie. He is the leader, the undisputed leader of that team already as a rookie. And I just think what he's demonstrated throughout the course of this season, having the Washington Commanders far overachieve when anybody thought that they would be able to do their cap. People thought the Washington Commanders would be a 5-6 win football team, maybe at best. Look at this team, double-digit wins into the postseason. I mean, looking good. I mean, having some spectacular wins along the way. I mean, Jaden Daniels, there's never take a couple weeks ago. Let's go back to Sunday night a couple of weeks ago. Was it Sunday Night Football? They were playing the Falcons. And they went to the overtime. They win the coin toss. Washington wins the coin toss. Jaden Daniels, damn a field goal. He's like, we're not giving this team a chance. They didn't even give the Falcons an opportunity. Went right down there and put the ball in the end zone and drove it right down the field. And that was an important game more important for the Atlanta Falcons in a sense. But it was important for both teams. But it was more important for the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, they really kind of needed the W right there. And they didn't even give them a chance. Jaden Daniels has been everything that the New York Giants, me as a New York Giant fan, was hoping to be able to generate some of that similar magic. You can't expect to get those kind of results. But at the end of the day, when you watch what this Washington football team, Washington Commander team was a season ago, and you see what they are now, and the biggest difference. Now, granted, they've had a lot of other change, obviously, but the biggest difference was getting that quarterback in there. And when you see that, I'm sorry. It just makes a difference, man. And it's made quite an impact on the Washington Commanders as we're now going to watch the Washington Commanders in postseason, man. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I mean, they've been a little ups, down. I mean, this game on Sunday meant everything for the Buccaneers. I mean, they could have really ruined their whole season by dropping that game. And they did what it took, and they came back, and they got the job done against a lowly New Orleans Saints football team led by Spencer Rattler, no less. And it took them everything to be able to come out and win that game. So this Buccaneers team, to me, they were playing at a much higher level in the earlier part of the year. Now they're kind of more a little, you don't really know what you're going to get week to week with this football team. And I think you know exactly what you're going to get from the Washington Commanders. And that's why, for that exact reason, I'm picking the Washington Commanders to win this football game, because I just see a team that is continuously growing week in and week out with this Washington Commanders football team. And I just believe in what I see from that young man at quarterback, Jaden Daniels. He is an absolute leader. And he's turned that franchise completely around. And Washington, as long as he is their guy, they're gonna be in the mix probably each and every year, barring some kind of catastrophic injuries or such. They're going to be in the mix. It is what it is. And the NFC East and the New York Giants, you got to catch up to these teams, man. You got to catch up. And right now, I hate keep trying to go back to the Giants. I just can't help it as a Giants fan. But it's just, you watch all the mistakes that they've made over the years, and then you watch Washington do what was needed, and you see the results that they got. I mean, I shouldn't, give all the credit to Jaden Daniels, but what we all say, the quarterback's the most important position. Well, he's the quarterback. So if it works, you can't just go against that when for the sake of argument. Jaden Daniels is the biggest reason for the turnaround in Washington. I grant Dan Quinn's done a tremendous job, and I think personally he should get a nod for Coach of the Year. But we'll have to wait a couple weeks to find all that out. But at the end of the day, Jaden Daniels has been the biggest difference and had the biggest impact on this Washington Commander resurgence of a season that they've had, man. It's been awesome watching this young man. And I just right now I'm not willing to bet against him. And I think the moment's not going to be too big for him. You look at their roster, the makeup of their roster is still not even truly the most talented, but yet they still make it work. And if they continue to build around this kid, I think I see a team that could be really, really special in the near future, and a team that's going to continue to be ready to compete with squads like the Philadelphia Eagles within this division. So, yeah, for that reason, I'm picking the Washington Commanders to win this one. But I think it could potentially also be a really, really, really good game Sunday night as well. This is going to be a great way to end Sunday Wildcard, Sunday dish of games, man. With this one in the prime time slot. That alone, I mean, granted, I mean, getting to play in the prime time slot on Sunday. That just tells you what Jaden Daniels is and what he's meant to this Washington Commander team and to the league this year. Honestly, like I said, I think it's been a privilege watching him grow throughout this season, man. And it's truly been a tremendous effort, man. So I'm sorry for the love fest of Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. I am still very much a Giant fan, but
what's funny is we talked about it, and the NFL obviously likes him enough where they could have put Green Bay, Philadelphia at 825. That's good. That's a good game. That's not a bad game to look at. You could have done that. You could have done that and had no problems, right? People would have tuned in. But they put Jaden Daniels and the Commanders on. Don't get it twisted. If Jaden Daniels not on this team, they're not doing that. Tampa Bay and Commanders play at 1 o'clock, and boom, I guarantee you they move the Philly Green Bay game in. But because of who he is and what he's done, Tampa Bay is getting to be seen across the world right now, or at least across the United States, on how they're going to be doing things, right? So it shows you how much the NFL appreciates what Jaden Daniels has done to put him on that marquee game. Like, this is Jaden Daniels. When's the last time we saw a rookie quarterback get primetime spot on an NFL playoff? Just think about it. They didn't even put C.J. Stroud in the primetime game last year.
They did not.
So now you're telling me that Jaden Daniels is worthy of being in the primetime spot? Don't think that was done by accident, folks. Don't think, because we had C.J. Stroud lift that Texans team, but nobody really. He's on Texas in the AFC, right? While it was good and big, he should have been probably in the primetime game. He wasn't. This guy, Jaden Daniels, is in Washington. It's a big market. They want to be on there. They're playing a smaller market in Tampa Bay. It doesn't matter. They could have played, the team from Neptune. They could have played Iowa State. They would have been still in the marquee matchup. I'm just saying, right? Because of who Jaden Daniels is. Not that C.J. Stroud isn't, but think about it. And Texas is probably bigger. Houston's probably bigger than Washington in the state of Texas. I don't know the ramifications, but Houston's a big city.
It's significantly bigger. Houston is the 4th largest city in the country.
Right. So they didn't even put that game in prime time.
I just do.
They don't prime time, right? They weren't in prime time last year. Here is Washington, D.C., the Commanders. I'm just saying, if you don't think the NFL likes the NFC East being prominent, especially like a team like Washington, after all they've been through with their ownership, this is not a game where they're like, oh, you know what? They're putting the game that everybody's going to sit down on their couch on Sunday night to watch. They want to see what Jaden Daniels does. They want to see if the Cinderella story comes to an end. They want to find out. That's what they want to do. And is it as compelling as C.J. Stroud? I don't know. I think C.J. Stroud had a good rookie year, and you could honestly put him on there. But the NFL did this on purpose, and I know they did, because I like Green Bay and Philadelphia. I think that's going to be a good matchup of two teams who've earned the right to be on primetime. But yet we have the Commanders. So I just wanted to make that point clear to the folks out there that you're going to be watching a rookie on national TV might, win a playoff game in front of you. And a guy who's on a heater right now in the NFL, in terms of probably going to win Rookie of the Year, if he goes on to win a playoff game, I definitely don't want to hear about it for the next decade like we did with Daniel Jones, but at least, his legacy will continue to grow. And, Washington will have something to be excited about. And let's not forget they're doing this with a team that's not even ready yet. Their team is overachieving the X's and O's to this guy, right? Imagine if they get a wide receiver to complement Terry McLaurin, right? Because that's what they really need right now. Mm-hmm. Imagine if they bolster that depth of the offensive line. They get more defensive help over there. They have Lattimore. Let's hope like next year he comes back healthy. You draft another corner. Maybe you bring in a guy. They have money to spend on the free agency. This Washington team next year is going to be trying to fight for the division title next year. That will be their goal. With whatever happens with this playoff run.
Shit, they fought for it this year. They fought for it this year. I mean, that's the beauty of this team, Adam. No, like you just said, they got their quarterback. You know what I mean? They got their quarterback. So now it's time to tune everything, to polish everything else up. Like you said, get a complimentary receiver to Terry McLaurin. Get the depth on the O-line that they need. Bolster the defense. They can really dig in and focus on those things. And another thing is because you have Jaden Daniels at quarterback, a guy that is respected and other guys believe in, now you're a more attractive spot for free agents. Free agents are going to want to be a part of what you got going on in Washington. They're going to want to come there and be a part of that. So I think they're just in a really good spot right now. I think going forward for their franchise, man.
They could turn this around. We could be looking at we see the Eagles win, right? You know how the NFC changes hands every year? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Commanders be as good as the Eagles and be as good as them and raise the bar and get to the NFC East championship, NFC championship game, right? That's where the trajectory that they're headed on and the path they're headed on. They may not get there with Dan Quinn. Things could happen. But when you have a quarterback that's this good, that can elevate everything, you can now strategize differently. Their hopes and dreams in year 2 were not what you were expecting, right? Now, if they keep doing and have the foresight, unlike the Giants, to keep rebuilding in the draft and getting the best player available and not saying we're going to just put this free agents on there, right? And once you're done doing that, right, because you can't fill every hole, but you're going to have to get 1-year guys and guys who may not be here long. You're going to want to build that team. If you look at a lot of the good teams across the NFL, what do they got? They got guys that come in and can plug the hole that they need to, like the Eagles. Everybody on that offensive line. People were laughing at me about the Eagles. They said the Eagles' offensive line is going to dominate the Giants this week against their backups. They're like, well, you don't know what you're talking about their back. I said they would. Why? Because that team is 13-3, or 13-4, excuse me. The mindset changes when you're on teams like that. The mindset changes when you go from just trying to be a playoff team to now we're going to be a championship team. Now everybody's buying in. Now you're not going to be late for meetings. Now you're not going to be this. I don't want to disappoint that guy, right? Because look how hard he's working. Look at the results. Look at what we're doing. We want to be great. Right, like Max said, guys are going to call up like, how do I get there? They may even take less money, to be honest with you, to go play with Washington when they could come to the Giants or something like that and play. But they're like, you know what? I don't want to go to the Giants in that muck up of a situation where I'm probably going to lose. The coaches are on shaky ground and everything going on there, when I can go to a team that's the talk of the town right now, that is the flavor of the month, that is at every party. Everything you're talking about is Commanders this, Commanders that, jersey sales going up. Like this, they're going to ride the way. This is almost like what they had with RG3. Now, we don't want the same fate to happen with RG3 that happened with Jaden Daniels, and fingers crossed that doesn't. That changed trajectory of that franchise as well. But if all things being equal and being healthy, this is why he's there. And I wouldn't be surprised if they win, they get the later game the next week as well. And they'll constantly get that game because the NFL is going to want to ride that hot wave in terms of merchandising, in terms of sales. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a Jaden Daniels commercial pop up in the Super Bowl or something going forward, because these things. I mean, Will Levis, who's done absolutely nothing in the NFL, has a mayonnaise commercial. Are you kidding me? You don't think Jaden Daniels can get something? You get on a chunky soup ad? You know, I got a guy who doesn't even play good football, puts mayo in his coffee, and he's got a mayonnaise ad, and has done nothing in the NFL. This guy's about to win Rookie of the Year. Come on, somebody's got to call him up. I don't know, pistachio, something. Somebody call him.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he'll have his pick of the litter when it comes to all that stuff in the off season, man. I don't think there's going to be any problem with that. People are
Let
going
me
to
ask
be
you
all
this.
about Jay and Dan, like you said. What's that?
Do you think the Commanders have a chance to, like, we're laughing now, but all serious note, do you think if they play well enough, they could end up maybe being in against the Lions and the Eagles in the NFC Conference title game? Would that surprise you?
Based off of how their season has played out and with the things we've seen from them, it wouldn't. I don't necessarily think it's going to play out that way. I think they do have they're just not quite up there quite yet with those teams as far as the make of their roster and such and the playoff atmosphere. And let's face it, they're going to be on the road the whole way basically. I mean, for the most part, it would take. There's not really a logic. There's no real way for them to ever have a home game throughout this
Yeah, but
process,
technically they're better than
unless
the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? So, record wise,
well, record wise, yeah, yeah.
and this is what we argue about every year, that it should be, you win your division fine, but if your record is not good, you should not be hosting the game. It should be the Commanders, right? And then if you get these winners like, let's say, Philadelphia and all that, if you qualify with record, fine, I get it. But like, you should. I hate seeing a team that's 12-5 travel to a team that's 9-8. You know what I'm saying? And I hate the reason I hate to say that, because I grew up in the '90s where you had a team that was like 9-8. They would go travel to the teams that are 11-5, and you're like, okay, that team was worth it. Now, did the Seattle Seahawks beat the Saints when they went? Yes, we all saw the story. Marshawn Lynch beast mode. I get it. Happens all the time, right? But my point is, I just think, to me, it's ugly to say, like, when you look at that game, the Washington Commanders, they played 12 games. They earned a spot in the playoffs. But this team, limps into the playoffs at 9 wins. And they're like, but why do they get the privilege of playing at home, even though I won? I have more wins than them. You know what I'm saying? And I think that should be tweaks going forward. If I'm the competition committee, maybe change that up. It'll definitely change the dynamic of the wild card. That's for sure.
I want to say first, thank you for stopping in, Carlos Rosado. No doubt, we appreciate you stopping in and with the Eagle facts about the big offensive line. That's part of why they're so damn good. But at the end of the day, I do agree. Anything can happen in the postseason because everybody's good. But Adam, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one of my things. And usually you might get one matchup like that in the course of the playoff of the postseason. You might usually get one matchup where it's like a team with a better record is having to go on the road, like with the Eagles last year. That happened to the Eagles a season ago, as a matter of fact. They had to go down to Tampa Bay. Why is it always Tampa Bay? Why is it always Tampa Bay? But the Eagles had to go to Tampa Bay with a better record, and they end up losing that game as well. The Eagles did end up losing that game down there in Tampa Bay on the road. But I don't know if you noticed, there are 3 such matchups like that in the postseason this week, wild card weekend. 3 matchups where teams with better records are having to go on the road. This is the one right here. One of them, Washington going down to Tampa Bay. But you also got Minnesota having to go out to LA. And then in the AFC, there's one in the AFC too. Can't remember what it is right now offhand. But there's one I gotta look it up. There's one in the AFC as well.
What?
One of the matchups where the team with the better record is going on the road. And let me see if I can find which one that. Which one? Oh, the Chargers. The Chargers having to go down to Houston on Saturday. So it's like 3 matchups like that where the team with the better record is having to go on the road. Like I said, I'm all for not taking the value of winning your division completely off the table. You win your division, you're guaranteed a spot in the postseason. No problem at all with that. But the team with the better record should not be having to go on the road because your record in the regular season has to mean something. And
Right.
based off of records, the Washington Commanders were a better team than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season, and they shouldn't have to be going on the road to play them. They should definitely, and the NFL needs to really take a serious look at this. I think, like I said, I understand you give them, you want to, reward the division winner. Sure, you reward them with a playoff spot, not
All
a home
right.
game.
That
You
makes
should not be
okay.
rewarded with a home, not with just.
So here's how it goes. You get a playoff game, right? And if your record is better than the opponent you are slotted to play, right? You'll still be the fourth seed. But if your record is not better, like if you were the fourth seed and you get into the playoffs because you have the top 6 teams or top 7 teams, whatever it is, and your record is not good, against the team you're playing, then you're going on the road. If you're better than the team that you're playing, let's say you play a 9-8 team and you're 10-7, then you deserve the home game because you've earned it because of the games you've won. It should be rewarding the season. Look at the Lions. They're rewarded with home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Okay, home field. The Minnesota Vikings are going to a team right now that has less wins than them. Okay, they're going on the road. They're 14-2. Okay, they're going to the Rams, who are 10-6, 10-7. 14-2 or 14-3, whatever their record is, right? Going on the road. Why is that fair? I mean, granted, the Rams won the division. Okay, so you win the division, and out of the division teams, it doesn't matter what seed you are. You just get into the playoffs. Your record will determine your seeding. So if you have 10 wins, you're number 6. It should be that you're guaranteed a playoff spot. But hey, you might have to play on the road because your record is not good. We do it with tiebreakers. If the let's just hypothetically say the Detroit Lions and the Vikings ended up with the same record. Well, because the Vikings have a tiebreaker here, here, and here, they get the number 1 seed. But yet, if the Commanders win and they're 12-5, but they have to go to a 9-8 team to defend themselves, what does that matter? Why does it matter in one scenario where 2 teams end up with the same record, and because of tiebreaker, you put them in there, right? They win the division, and then this other team goes and plays in the 6th seed. Like, I get it. I understand it. You had that format. But the whole point of the playoffs and your record is to be the best team in football, right? So if the Eagles are 2, then it should go like this. It should be probably Detroit, Minnesota, Eagles. Then I would say, I guess it would be the Green Bay Packers, then the Rams, and then you'd have the Buccaneers. I might be missing a team, but that's how I would do it. Excuse me, the Commanders, then the Green Bay Packers, then the Rams, then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's how it should be. That's how it should fall, right? Like, okay, you won the division, the Rams, you're in the playoffs automatically. We don't know what seed you are yet because we have to see where all the records fall, right? And for all we know,
yeah, exactly. Actually, an example of that is the college basketball, March Madness. That's a great example. March Madness, they have all those conference tournaments at the end of the season, and yeah, you win your conference tournament, you get automatic bids, you get to go to the dance. You ain't guaranteed no first round. You ain't guaranteed a high seed or first round bye or anything like that. You've just been guaranteed an opportunity to participate in the tournament. That's what it's all about. And I just, like you said, to me, it's kind of just it's stupid to me the way the seeding process works. Like I said, you win a division, you got a spot. You don't necessarily get a home game. That's just not, to me. That's just not the way it should be. But right now, that's how it is, and we are at that 90-minute mark. Just want to pass it a little bit. But you got anything else you want to say before we get out of here, Adam?
We're going to ride with you as long as these teams are in the playoffs. So stick around.
Absolutely. So as long as the Eagles and Commanders are still playing football, me and Adam going to be right here delivering this content to y'all each and every Wednesday, man. We come up with some off-season stuff here and there too, man, but it's just not on a weekly basis because the off-season can have its little quiet moments. There's just not a lot to talk about at certain points of the off-season. But Well, yeah, that definitely will be this year. We can do shows on the Giants alone every damn week. I mean, with the offseason they're gonna have. But but yeah, we appreciate everybody in the chat, man. It's been a great show, you guys. Definitely appreciate the support. Love how y'all kept the chat active. Always keep that going for us, man. We definitely appreciate it, man. And I'm Mac the Giants fan. This is my guy Adam Costas, man. Make sure y'all sub up, like, support the streams on my channel, on Adam's channel, and on at the Hardcore Sports Network, man. Make sure help all these channels grow. We really appreciate it. All the links are in the chat. All the links are in the description. Excuse me. So we definitely appreciate it, man. And like I said, I'm at the Giants fan. This is my guy, the super dope co-host, Adam Costas. And we'll see y'all next Wednesday. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you was feeling this, please take time to subscribe and smack them likes. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to ring that bell so you know when I'm dropping new content. It's your boy, Mac the Giants fan. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Mac the Giants fan. That's MacDa Giants fan.